"You really should not have come," Linda said, chopping vegetables without sparing me a glance. Mark chuckled and added, "It is not as if anyone missed you last year either." I smiled quietly, set down my gift bag, and drove away in silence. About 30 minutes later, my phone rang with a call from the florist confirming a cancellation, followed by a call from the bank notifying me that my joint account access was revoked. Shortly after, the family group chat lit up with messages asking, "Why would you do this?" I smiled and responded. After all they said, I felt like a failure. Not because I did not put in effort. I had spent weeks obsessing over every little thing: what to wear, what to bring, how to behave. I kept telling myself that last year's events did not matter. Maybe they had softened in time. Perhaps showing I still wanted to be part of their lives would change things. I was mistaken. I arrived at their house an hour early, parked down the street as though I were a guest instead of their daughter, and sat in the car practicing how to greet them. This was their 31st anniversary. Unlike the previous year, there was no extravagant celebration, but still, several dozen people, family, friends, church members, neighbors, were invited. I was invited too, but not truly welcome. Last year they had celebrated without me. I was not just left out. I was entirely excluded. They did not offer any explanation until weeks later, when Linda said they only wanted peace that evening. When I pressed for more details, she eventually admitted it was intentional. That conversation stayed with me for months. I did not go home for Thanksgiving or Christmas. No one reached out. So this year, when the invitation finally arrived through a forwarded email, not even a personal message, I hesitated. Still, I decided to go. I arrived holding a carefully put-together gift bag filled with things I knew they would appreciate. Personalized presents, thoughtful items, those kinds of gifts that require time and consideration. I spent about $1,000. Not to buy affection, but to demonstrate that they still mattered, even though I was unsure if I did to them. I stepped into the kitchen where Linda was chopping vegetables. She did not look up. She said, "You should not have come," just like that. Mark, still wearing his apron, laughed quietly. "It is not like anyone missed you last year either," he added. They did not even bother to pretend. Not in front of me, not even when I handed over the gift bag and said, "Happy anniversary." No gratitude, no eye contact, only silence. So I turned around and left. Passing through the dining room, I noticed the guests arriving, some already seated with drinks, others asking where I was headed, and some just staring. Gary glanced towards the kitchen, then looked at me with a confused expression, as if he sensed something was wrong but did not want to get involved. My parents remained where they were. They did not follow me or explain to anyone why I departed 5 minutes after arriving. I hope someone asked. I hope they stumbled trying to respond. I got back in the car and sat there with my hands rested on the steering wheel for a long time, not driving anywhere, just lost in thought. I wasn't thinking about the humiliation they caused me before, but about how much time and energy I had wasted on people who clearly didn't care. Then I grabbed my phone without a second thought. First, I canceled the bouquet that was supposed to arrive tomorrow morning. White lilies and blue orchids in a crystal vase. It cost me more than $200. Gone just like that. Next, I logged into the banking app and removed their access to the joint account they had been using for almost 2 years. That account was never meant to be a safety net, but it became one. $3,000 every month quietly going toward their bills, groceries, streaming subscriptions, and even rent for my sister Emily living in another city. Not once did they say thank you. Minutes later, the confirmations popped up on my screen. The flower order canceled. The bank access revoked. Then the group chat exploded like a fire alarm. "Why would you do this? Are you serious? You just shamed your parents in front of everyone." And finally, the message that made me laugh aloud in the car: "What kind of daughter does this on their anniversary?" I replied with only one sentence. You said you were better off without me. Now you get to prove it. Then I switched off my phone, pulled away from their neighborhood, and didn't glance back. For the first time in years, I didn't feel an ounce of guilt for choosing to put myself first. I figured after what I said they might stay silent, maybe take a week or two to reflect. They tended to their wounds as they always did whenever things took a turn for the worse. I never anticipated what was about to unfold, not its speed or the intensity of desperation. By the moment I pulled into the driveway and stepped inside, my phone was ringing relentlessly. There were 6 missed calls and 2 voice messages, all coming from Linda and Mark. I chose not to answer any of them. Instead, I sank onto the couch, finally breathing out, and allowed the calmness to wash over me. For once nobody was present to misinterpret my words, guilt me, or insist I was overreacting. A strange feeling crept over me. I suppose it was relief, but it was fleeting. At exactly 8:13 in the evening, Emily sent a message saying, "Hey, what happened?" I stared at the screen for a moment. Then another message popped up. It read, "I just got a notice that my rent payment failed. I thought Mark took care of that." This was the beginning of everything falling apart. Emily did not realize that the money had been coming from me. I had never told her. About a year and a half ago, when she called me in tears after Linda told her she needed to handle things on her own, I stepped in. I contacted the landlord, paid 3 months up front, and silently connected her apartment to the joint account Linda and Mark used. They led her to believe it was their support. Now that deception shattered all at once, I hesitated before replying to her texts. I was uncertain how to respond. I wanted to keep her out of the conflict, but she was already involved, whether I liked it or not. Shortly after 10 o'clock, Mark left a voicemail. I almost decided not to listen, but I did. And I will never forget the change in his tone. "All right. You have made your point," he said. "But this is not just about us. You have hurt your sister. You caused a scene in front of everyone. You embarrassed the entire family. Do you think cutting us off is some kind of win?" Then he stopped for a moment. "Do you want to play this game? Remember who gave you everything." That statement stayed with me. Gave me everything. As if I had not been covering their expenses for almost 2 years. As if I had not been stepping in whenever they were behind on something and pretending it was only temporary. I did not answer. The next morning, I woke up to a knock. I was not expecting anyone, so I checked the peephole first. It was Katie. She looked drained, pale, her hair hastily tied back. She did not even wait to be invited. She just came inside like she had been holding her breath the entire way. "I had to drive 3 hours because no one would tell me anything," she said. I did not even sit down. "You did not have to do that. You canceled the rent payment." "Yes, I am not stopping your support, just their access." She blinked. "Wait, what?" I told her everything. That I had been the one paying. That I did not want her to feel burdened. That they let her believe it was their doing because it made them look better. She sat quietly. "So all those thank you messages I sent to Linda," I nodded. "I saw them in the family chat." She looked unwell. I sat across from her. "Listen, I will keep helping you. Not through them directly, but I have reached my limit. I am done acting as the obedient daughter for people who despise me unless I serve a purpose." She was silent for some time before saying, "They are going to come after you fiercely." I was aware, and indeed they did. The remainder of the day felt like a storm gradually building. Linda sent me a lengthy message about how she had sacrificed everything for us. Mark wrote something about betrayal and family ties. My cousin May also reached out, urging me to reconsider before completely burning this bridge. Then the unexpected happened. That evening, Linda called Katie, unaware I was present when Katie answered. "We are sorry," Linda said. Tell Natalie to stop by tomorrow. We just want to talk. Katie glanced at me. I heard it in her voice that she wished to trust their words, but I simply nodded because I already knew it would not be what they claimed. Katie told them I would come, and I did. I was certain there would be no genuine apology. They do not say sorry. They only soften their tone when it suits their interests. They retold the story, making themselves appear as peacemakers. But sorry is a word that does not exist in that house. Even so, I went. The next morning, Katie called me saying they wanted to speak and expressed remorse. She sounded hopeful, or maybe just exhausted from being caught in the middle. They want to make things right, she said. I agreed, saying, let us see what that means for them. I arrived in the driveway just before noon. Everything was silent, eerily so. No visitors, no voices. The cars had disappeared, but the tension lingered. Katie opened the door before I could knock, her expression uneasy. They're waiting in the living room, she informed me. I stepped inside. The same house, the same familiar scent, the same heavy atmosphere. Both of them sat rigidly on the couch, like actors waiting for the scene to start. Mark offered me that forced, composed smile he used whenever he wanted to appear reasonable to others. Linda fixed her gaze on the coffee table, as if silently rehearsing her lines. I took a seat opposite them, keeping silent. Linda was the first to speak. We've had some time to reflect, she said. Maybe we didn't handle things as gently as we should have, especially on a day like yesterday. Mark picked up right where she left off, as if rehearsed. You've always been emotional, Natalie. We understand that. But there is a way to solve problems without destroying everything. I remained quiet. Walking out like that, he added, humiliated us in front of everyone. You think that didn't hurt? There it was. The heart of it. Not how they treated me or what they said, but how it appeared to others, and how it made them feel when the whispers started. When people asked where I went or why I left, that was the true pain. They looked bad. I said nothing, only listened. Linda shifted in her chair. We know things haven't been perfect, but you shutting down that account didn't only affect us. You know Emily needs that rent money. That was the moment Katie entered the room. Her eyes were puffy and red, her face blotchy and pale. She took a seat beside Linda, looked straight at me and said, I just don't want this to ruin everything. It already feels like everything is crumbling. I glanced at her. You should not be here right now. She blinked in surprise. What? This conversation is not about you. I already promised to cover your rent. I refuse to let you suffer because of their mistakes. But don't allow them to use you like a pawn in their game. That is exactly what this is. She looked down, remaining silent. Mark leaned in, breaking the quiet. Do you really think you have risen above this family? You would not be where you are now if it were not for us. Do you believe your success appeared out of nowhere? Absolutely not, I responded. I succeeded by doing everything you taught me to avoid. Suddenly he stood up. Do not push your luck. You believe that cutting off money gives you control? We have our own ways to respond. People listen to us. Do not think we will hesitate to make calls. Do not believe your job is so secure that no one can touch it. Rising to my feet, I declared I have worked too hard to achieve my position to be intimidated by two desperate, unemployed manipulators with nothing left to lose. Linda looked surprised for a moment, just a brief second, then furious. Do you honestly think you are superior to us, she said, after all we have done? You did not raise a daughter, I replied. You raised a bank account, and now this account is closed. Katie stood silently, moving away from them, edging closer to me. That was the first indication that maybe she also realized the truth about who they really were. I turned toward the door. Mark called out after me, You will regret this. Natalie, but I did not hesitate. I walked away from that house once more, this time without anger or confusion, just completely finished. Later that evening, Katie sent me a message again. Only one sentence. You were right. I did not realize it before I told her I would start paying rent straight to her landlord and assured her not to worry about handling anything with them. I would not let her be burdened by it, but I had no intention of going back. That very night Gary called and left a voicemail expressing how upset they were calling me cruel and demanding that I take responsibility and fix the situation. I immediately blocked his number. My parents were only beginning. When guilt failed, they switched to their next tactic. Manipulation was merely the first stage. I already anticipated what would come next. I expected a few days of silence, but in less than 24 hours, I received a letter. Not a message or a call, but a formal letter delivered to my apartment with no return address. Only my name written neatly in cursive. I opened it carefully, aware it would bring no comfort. Inside was a 2-page typed document. Mark's tone was distant and practiced. He mentioned they were contemplating legal measures to reclaim contributions I had made over the last 2 years. He itemized expenses I had covered, as if they were debts owed back to them, including Emily's rent repairs to the roof groceries, and even Mark's dental procedures. He concluded with, "You made a choice. So did we." I just sat there staring at it, neither angry nor upset, simply shocked. They were willing to go to great lengths. They attempted to turn the whole situation around and portray themselves as the victims of my financial misconduct. It would have been laughable if it had not been so intentionally manipulative. I scanned the letter and sent it to a lawyer I know. He read it and called me within 5 minutes. He said, "This is ridiculous. Yet it is also deliberate. They want to unsettle you, make you anxious." I replied, "They are trying to provoke me." He confirmed, "Exactly. Do not pay attention to it. If they actually take legal action, I will deal with it. But do not reply. That is their goal, to make you respond." Later that evening, I received a message from Katie. She said, "They just accused you of stealing from the family. The whole group believes you drained their retirement savings." I chuckled, not because it was humorous, but because it was so outrageously malicious. I had never touched any of their money. None of them ever had a retirement plan. The only financial support came from me. However, it was irrelevant to them. They were already changing the narrative. Then something I did not anticipate occurred. Katie returned, but this time she was not alone. She brought my cousin Evan with her. I had not seen him for over a year. Although we were not particularly close during our childhood, he had always been one of the few relatives who refused to engage in the family drama. He stood in my doorway holding a brown folder and looked serious. He said, "Jaden, I believe you need to see this." Inside the folder were screenshots, notes, and emails. He had attended the anniversary party and, according to him, overheard a conversation after I left. There was much more going on than I initially understood. Linda had moved from one room to another, sharing slightly varied versions of the story with different guests. To one person, she claimed I had refused to help any longer and had thrown a fit. To someone else, she hinted that I had been manipulating them through the joint account, even suggesting I had threatened to withhold funds previously. Meanwhile, Evan had been quietly gathering pieces of the truth. He possessed recordings, messages, enough to prove I was not the one being dishonest. "I don't know what to do with all this," he admitted. "But I thought you might." I accepted the folder without any clear plan, but simply having the proof was enough for the moment. That weekend, Mark attempted to reach me again, but I ignored the call. An hour later, Katie sent me a screenshot of a public Facebook post Linda had made. It was not a vague or passive-aggressive comment, but a full-blown speech accusing their only daughter of betraying the family and explaining how they were suffering without the money she supposedly took away. The post gained likes, sympathetic remarks, and prayers. They were putting on a public show. In response, I wrote a single sentence beneath the post. Should I start sharing the evidence, or would you rather I bring it to you in person? Within 5 minutes, Linda removed the post, and the group chat went quiet. Evan messaged me, "Well, that silenced them." Yet I knew deep down this was far from finished. They lost financial support but not their desire to control, and I made it clear I had no intention of returning. After the Facebook incident faded, a quiet settled once more. However, it was not the kind of peace that feels safe. Rather, it was the stillness before a wildfire breaks out. By this moment, nearly everyone in the family had chosen their position. A handful reached out privately to express sympathy, yet their words always ended with something like, "Maybe it is time to just let things be," or "Family will always be family." You know exactly what they were implying? Return to silence. Don't challenge. Allow them to have their way. Then came the voicemail. It was Tuesday morning when I found it waiting for me. The caller ID showed a blocked number. At first I hesitated to listen. Something urged me otherwise. It was Linda's voice, trembling with tears. Whether genuine or not, I could not be sure. Her speech was slow and deliberate, as if she wanted every word to resonate. "You win." "All right," she admitted. "We were wrong. I realize that now. I do not want this to drag on endlessly. We just want our family back. Please come over tonight. Let us talk. No shouting or blaming. Just a chance to make things right." I listened twice. It was the first time she ever admitted fault. Ever. I promised myself not to be fooled, yet a part of me longed to hear those words. So I dialed Katie. She sounded doubtful too. "If you decide to go, I will come with you." And so, we both went. The same house, the exact same living room. But this time, there were no guests, no forced smiles, just them sitting opposite us again. Linda rose as soon as we entered. Mark remained seated, arms folded, his jaw clenched tight. "We want to move forward," Linda said. "We are exhausted from all the anger." I stared at them and asked, "Are you sure that is not just because the money is gone?" She recoiled with surprise. "That's not just," she said. Then everything changed. Mark leaned in and said, "What if we made you a co-owner of the house legally? That would be fair. You've contributed so much." I stayed still. It almost sounded generous. Too generous. Then it hit me. It wasn't an offer. It was a trap. They were not giving me anything. They were trying to bind me to the house, to them permanently in a legal and financial sense. They disguised a new restriction as a reward. Katie glanced at me, then back to them. "That is not what she needs." "We're simply trying to extend goodwill," Linda said. "She feels we never valued her. This is our way of showing that we do." "And if I refuse?" I questioned. Mark shrugged. "You'll refuse because you want to play the victim. You always have." There it was. The harsh truth, the flaw in their facade. "I'm not taking anything from you," I said. "Not the house, not your apologies, not your guilt." "Oh, you'll be back begging," Mark said. "I know," I replied. "You just lost your last opportunity." I stood up. Katie stood with me. "I will keep supporting you," I told her, "but not through them. Never again." She nodded with wide but steady eyes. I think that was when she truly chose her side. Together we left. Once outside, she grabbed my arm. "Are you done, aren't you?" "Yeah," I said. "For good this time." She moved away from their grasp. A week later, she officially changed her mailing address. I began sending her $900 each month. She was sending her rent payments directly to the landlord every month. Then she sent me a message that almost shattered me. "You are the only person I can rely on. You are the best sister I could ever wish for." Linda and Mark made a few more tries to reach out. They sent emails, messages through family members, even made one weak effort to accuse fraud on the closed joint account. Nothing worked. They quit when they realized there was nothing left to take. No money, no control, no daughter. It has been 4 months since I left their house for the last time. Since then, I have received no contact from either of them. No phone calls, no emails, no letters disguised to guilt-trip me. The group chat has been completely silent. I nearly forgot it was still there. Initially, the quiet was unsettling, like the tense stillness after a storm when you expect something else to break loose. I kept checking my inbox, waiting for a final dramatic moment. A lawyer's notice, a wild claim, a fresh manipulation tactic. But nothing appeared. Gradually, the silence stopped feeling like a threat. It began feeling like liberation. I am sleeping more soundly now, no longer waking up weighed down by anxiety about what crisis I will be forced to pay for, or which favor will be demanded as a duty. When I return home, I find peace instead of stress, chaos, or the persistent tension of simmering anger. The old joint account remains dormant, untouched. I check it occasionally out of habit, half expecting to catch another attempt to access it, but nothing happens. It remains frozen, like a sealed vault holding a past life. I no longer exist in that world. Katie is doing much better as well, far better than before. She finally acknowledged that she had been holding her breath for the last 2 years, constantly anxious about the strings attached to everything they gave her. Now that the money comes directly from me with no questions asked, she is calmer, lighter, and different. 2 weeks ago, she moved into a new place. I helped her carry boxes up 3 flights of stairs and saw her open her new front door as if it truly belonged to her, without any ghosts behind it or parents threatening to use her as leverage. That same night, she sent me a voice message. No script and no pretenses. She said, "You are the only one who has never used me. You could have let me believe their lies forever, but you did not. You spoke the truth and never stopped supporting me. You are my family now. You always were." Her words struck me deeper than I had expected. I told her she was free now too, and this time she believed me. But just when I thought everything had calmed down, something unexpected occurred. A mutual acquaintance, someone I had not spoken to since high school, sent me a direct message on Instagram. They said they had seen my parents at a small local event a few towns away. Nothing extravagant, just a casual gathering. However, they claimed my parents were telling others that they had not heard from me in months. They expressed deep concern that I had cut all ties without warning and worried that I might be involved with something unstable. It seemed they were spreading rumors. Whispers surfaced again, quiet and elusive. I chose not to reply. It did not matter what the neighbors assumed, yet I took a screenshot of the message and saved it just in case, since people like that never stop attempting to control the narrative even after they have lost their audience. Meanwhile, I began organizing a new chapter, planning to move to a different state, somewhere fresh and distant enough to avoid any chance encounters. I have not shared this yet, not even with Katie, but I will, because the final part of letting go is not just closing a door behind you. It means walking so far away that the knocking stops reaching your ears. This time, I have no intention of looking back. But as soon as I started exploring new apartments, browsing neighborhoods and job openings, I received another message. It was from someone I barely recalled, an old neighbor still living a few blocks from my parents. She mentioned seeing them at a nearby diner last week, laughing with friends, casually discussing how tough things had been since Natalie cut ties. She said, they only want peace, and that they were heartbroken. She even asked, "Is there anything I can do to help reunite your family?" At that moment, I saw how carefully Linda and Mark were crafting their version of the tale. They were painting themselves as victims, abandoned, betrayed, and broken-hearted, while portraying me as the cold, calculating daughter who turned away out of resentment. I did not. I decided not to reply to the neighbor because it seemed pointless. People tend to accept whatever suits them best, especially if it means avoiding the harsh reality. Still, I took a screenshot of that message and saved it in the folder Evan had handed me. Not because I planned to use it, but as a reminder for the moments when guilt tries to take hold. When loneliness softly suggests that maybe I was too severe. I must remind myself that they harmed me repeatedly. They created a whole system built upon my silence, and I shattered it. Linda is the only one who truly understood the entire situation. She witnessed their attempts to erase the facts and substitute them with their own false story. She saw their lies, their manipulations, their attempts to twist the truth, and then their feigning of innocence when consequences followed. Now, she and I speak more often, with genuine conversations no longer filtered through what we think Linda would expect or how Mark might later distort things. She has gained her freedom, and so have I. Recently, while we were on the phone, she said, "I used to believe you were the difficult one because that's what they always said to me. But now I realize you were simply the only person brave enough to speak the truth aloud." I stayed silent at first because, for a long time, I had thought the same. But now I believe her. About a week after that call with Linda, I began digging through some old boxes hidden in my closet, things I had not seen in many years. Photographs, letters, small school mementos, and a few presents I had completely forgotten they ever gave me. It felt like unearthing a buried past, a stranger's existence, someone who still believed that love could be earned through obedience and sacrifice. I discovered a birthday card from Mark hidden inside one of the envelopes. It read, "You're headstrong, but one day you will appreciate us. No, I love you. No warmth. Simply a reminder that control was always disguised as care." I discarded it. That evening, I lit a candle and settled on the floor of my living room, encompassed by memories of the past. I wept, not because I longed for them, but because I was finally mourning what I never truly possessed. Parents who cherished me for who I was, not for what I offered. A family that supported me even when it was inconvenient. A household that resembled safety, not surveillance. I did not grow up unloved. I grew up conditionally loved. That is far more difficult to recognize because it does not resemble abuse. It appears as duty, as guilt cloaked in tradition, as we tried our best used to deflect all responsibility. The next morning, I reached out to my lawyer friend again by email, requesting him to investigate something for me just in case. What if they attempt to involve me in something legal in the future? I asked, "Is that possible?" He called me immediately. "They can try, Natalie, but you have everything recorded, and more importantly, you have severed ties properly and cleanly. Do not let paranoia destroy your calm. Yet, yes, I will remain watchful." This made me realize something. I am no longer frightened of them. I am simply prepared. There is a difference. Fear kept me silent, small, trying to diminish myself just to fit into the image they created of me. Being prepared means I fully understand what they might do, yet I remain standing regardless. I shared the lawyer update with Katie. She responded, "I am relieved they cannot just sneak back in simply because time has passed." Exactly. Time does not heal what was never truly confronted. Then a few days ago, I took a step that felt small, but was monumental for me. I updated my emergency contact. It used to be Linda automatically, out of routine. Now, it is Katie. When I told her, she started crying. "You really trust me that much?" "Of course I do. You are my family now." Not because we share DNA, but because she chose to see me when others preferred their own versions. We still have difficult talks. We are still slowly working through everything. But we are creating something genuine. something not built on debt or silence. Sometimes I wonder what Mark and Linda say nowadays. How they twist the story when there is no drama left to spark, no crowd to impress. Maybe they claim I cut them off without cause. Maybe they pretend it was a mutual split. Perhaps they keep rewriting their version to avoid facing the truth. I do not care. That is the strength of healing. In time, their story becomes irrelevant, because it is no longer about justifying yourself. It is about living a life that does not need defending. Just a few days ago, I stood inside my new apartment across the state. The apartment I never shared with them is smaller, but it belongs to me. The windows face the morning light, and there is a cozy coffee shop on the corner that already calls me by name. These days, I find myself walking more often. I am cooking more frequently. I allow myself to rest more. The quiet is no longer something I brace myself against. Instead, I embrace it with open arms. I sent Linda a picture of the view from my bedroom window. She answered right away. "You seem happy." I told her that I truly was. For the first time in a very long time, it felt genuine. The last box I unpacked contained a pile of old journals, ones written during a time when I was still seeking their approval. So many entries began with phrases like, "Maybe if I just," or "What if the issue is me?" I should have kept quiet. I nearly avoided reading them, but I pushed myself to do it. Not to relive those moments, but to recognize how far I've traveled. The girl captured in those pages believed survival meant love, endurance meant loyalty, and basic respect was something to be earned. I do not think she was fragile. I believe she was courageous, in the only way she knew how. However, she no longer resides here. I wrote one final note in the back of that journal before discarding it. It stated, "You were never excessive. You were never unappreciative. You were never the cause. You were simply the first to stop pretending, and now I am the first to be myself."